There you go.
Welcome to Faithful Film Fanatic. Today I get actress Sonia Iris Lozada on again.
No, Lozada. Lozada. Let's start
Lazada.
again.
Welcome to Faithful Film Fanatic. Today I get this actress Sonia Iris
Lozada.
Lozada. Lozada. Lozada.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, just double checking. So, how have things been going for you?
Well, it's been going really good. The last couple of years, because of the pandemic, I've been focusing on my poetry. And I kind of almost gave up on acting because, well, one, nothing was really happening during the pandemic. On a rare occasion, I did a film short and I've done a couple of print jobs, but I had kind of washed my hands of acting because it was just so hard to get work. And now I got a new agent. I've been going out. It's a new commercial agent. And I tell you, I have an audition almost every other day. Like one time I had 6 auditions in 4 days.
That's pretty cool. Any
Yeah.
have you gotten what movies have you auditioned for or TV shows?
I auditioned for a TV show called Little America. I did not get it, but now I want to watch it because it seems it's a comedy about how people preview what they think the American dream is, and then they get here and it's like totally different.
Yeah.
But it's a comedy. It looks really good, so I'm going to watch that. I auditioned for that. Like I said, I didn't get it because I would have heard by yesterday, and I did not hear. So, and they usually TV is pretty quick. Like if you audition that week, you'll know by the end of the week.
Okay.
Uh, and I did a print job that's coming out. It's a major retailer, but until it comes out, I guess I can't say anything. Uh, and I'm going to be working on a film on May 2nd.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's the? Are you allowed to say what?
Well, yeah,
Name?
that one is well, advertising is funny. When you do commercials in print, you don't know if you could say anything because they make you sign a non-disclosure. So, but TV shows, as long as you're not giving the script to other people or movie, then it doesn't matter. But this one's called 7 Days In. I don't know if that's a working title, but it's about 7 weeks into the pandemic. And I play a gallery employee named Linda. And we kind of recorded it before. The director, I worked with this director before. We did the movie Expired, which was about meter maids. And that one went to Sundance and to Cannes Film Festival in France. But Cannes was out of the budget, but I did go to Sundance for that film. And so she came back to me and says, "Hey, would you record something like you're on a Zoom call with your employer?" And she gave me the storyline, so I did it. And then, I didn't hear about anything for almost a year and a half, 2 years. And so then last month she contacted me and says, "We got the go ahead. You have to sign the SAG contract." And we signed the contract. She told me ahead of time that it was going to be SAG, so that's why I took a chance and just did a little quick thing because all her stuff is SAG. She doesn't do non-union.
Okay. What was Sundance Film Festival like? I've never been to that before.
It's really cold. It looks like Park City, Utah is beautiful. It looks like Santa's village. Everything is, it's adorable. And then what they do is they take the school auditoriums, they take whatever venue they can put a film in, and they do. So most of all the school auditoriums are taken. Even gyms, they have talks in the gyms and stuff like that. It's a very small town. It is very expensive to stay there. We couldn't even get a hotel in Park City because they were gone. But we didn't know the film was picked up till about 2 months before the event.
Oh,
So
wow.
we stayed in Salt Lake City, which was quite a bit away. It was an hour away from Park City in Salt Lake City. And so we went up there every day. It was not cheap. It was like $100 round trip, $50 to get there, $50 to get back.
Wow.
And we were there for 3 days. But it is cold. If you ever go, book a year ahead of time in a hotel, or go with a bunch of people and rent, do an Airbnb up there. But it's a great experience. It's just Park City is very cold. You want to be in, we spend most of the time, and buy tickets ahead of time if you can, which is really difficult. If I was in the film and I hardly got to be able to see my own film there. The producers had to arrange for me to get a ticket, and my friend, because everything was sold out. They do a lottery, and you get on the phone and you keep trying to buy a ticket. It's not easy to get a ticket to Sundance.
Crazy. It um I have you gotten any revenue or making any money on your podcasts at all, or how's your podcast?
No, no, I was told before, as I had a friend of mine who's actually a podcast producer. He's a producer of famous people podcasts, it's like, and he said, Sonia, you could do it, but he says, I have celebrities and they make no money for a year. And I'm like, wow, and here I am. And it's like, no, I've never made a penny off of it. But you get better with doing it. You get more listeners, you get more followers, because there's a lot of podcasts out there. And unless your quality is excellent, where you can hook somebody once they listen to your podcast, it's kind of hard to keep them. And when I interview people on my podcast, I'm very strict about it. You have to have a headset. You have to have some kind of microphone. I don't want room sound. You have to have good internet, because I don't have the time anymore. If it's not a good interview, I just won't air it. That's, if it comes across really bad. I got badly rated on one. They actually wrote, I gave you a 4-star. I would have given you 5 if your internet wasn't making noise. And it wasn't mine. It was the guest.
That sucks.
Yeah. So you
I
have to have good audio.
I have gotten better equipment, and I've gotten a lot better talking with people, and I've had some really cool people come on my podcast, and it just, and I'm not gonna give up on it or anything, but I don't know like what the next step is to do. Like I live in such a small city, small town, and I'm not sure what I can do with where I'm at to,
Well,
I'm
what
not
you want to
sure.
do is bring people to your podcast. They could be, what's really weird when I look at, who are you using, Anchor?
Yeah, I'm using
Okay.
Anchor.
You could look at the analytics on there, and it'll tell you where people are listening from. Sometimes I get people listening like from Saudi Arabia and Russia. And it's like, how do they even know about me? But people find you and you'll see the international. And what I do when I have a guest on my show, I just take out a cheap Facebook ad, run it for 5 days, and then, see what happens with that. And I advertise to English speaking countries, even though I have like Russia, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, parts of South America. So I don't know if actually only making it English speaking countries, because on Facebook, if you put your podcast on Facebook, which I do, I have it linked. You might want to do that. Link it to Facebook and they will, if someone's in a different country, they have the where they put like the subtitles, they'll put it in their language, so it translates it for them. So actually just using your social media, you don't have to pay a penny. Just use all your social media, and you have to be assertive with it. It's a lot of work. I'm not gonna, tell you it's not. That's why I pay for ads, because I know with the ad, it's running every day and I don't have to pay attention to it every day. Or they have where you can schedule everything every day. You could schedule it once a week for the whole week. So, I mean, that's one way to do it, because there is a lot of free ways to do it.
All right. And this is something my editor and I been talking about, is he thinks I should like keep re-promoting old episodes that I did last year, but those episodes are kind of crappy compared to the ones that I'm doing now. So shouldn't I like just keep re-promoting episodes I'm doing now, or how would you do it?
It depends. Like what I did for, like this is poetry month. So I've been promoting poetry this month, and I've only been wanting to interview poets. Last month, I was on hiatus because, let's face it, you need some time off from doing the podcast. So what I did was I created episodes for Women's History Month, and I covered all the female business leadership interviews I did. And I just listed them, and I did a cover art. Then I did the poets. Then I did the healing poets, because they were all like Women's History Month. So I celebrated Women's History Month. In February, I interviewed African American, because it was Black History Month. So I do like that. I mean, all of the Women's History Month, and this month as well, even though I have one poet that's coming up on Monday. I just say, listen to these interviews. You hear a wonderful poets. I was honored to have them. So that's what I'm doing this month. So I'm doing this episode, and then the next episode is celebration of all the poets that have been on my podcast.
Okay.
And so I'll have links. I'll do like an intro. I give a little bio and history about them, and then I put the links to the previous episodes. So that's one way to refurbish episodes, because they're good episodes. They're interesting. So
Another thing, since you're another podcast creator, how do you not get overly obsessed with the numbers? Because like for me, sometimes it's hard not to let the numbers make me mad, because like I feel like as I created it, it should have a lot more value than what's on it right this second.
well, yeah, and it's like an acting. You're a flavor of the month. If you have a concept that people are interested in, then you get more. I think comedy podcasts do better. I do another podcast called Chica and the Man, and I do it with this podcaster. We just play it by ear. We just do whatever, right? It's not about anything, but we're funny. And and that one got faster followers than Poetic Resurrection, because Poetic Resurrection is about perceptions. It's about how our belief systems and make us behave, or make, how we act with others because of it. So it just depends, and marketing has a lot to do with it, because my numbers and listeners goes way down when I don't advertise. But you don't have to advertise. You just have to be able to go online and make your Facebook a business. And then you could schedule different episodes and different things every day as a reminder to people. Because no one's going to listen if they don't know you don't exist.
Right.
If they don't know you exist, you know? And so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I'm actually thinking, as busy as I'm getting with my acting and everything now, that maybe I don't want to have a weekly one. You know, how can
Yeah.
I, because I am, and I know I'm anal about my editing. I really clean it up. So it's, you know, even my other podcast host, my co-host Alex, he's like, she's really anal. Because in that show, I'm a producer for both of them, but between me and him, I'm the producer of Chica and the Man. He's a co-host. Because I do all the advertising, I do all the editing. So, but yeah, podcasting is a lot of people don't know how much work it is. In fact, I am going to hold a class on how to be a good guest. I don't know, I don't think people realize how much work goes into podcasting and how to be a good guest.
I've actually, I haven't even been a guest on a podcast yet. And that's probably something I need to try to start doing is do more collaborations. I've, I've only collaborated with,
Can you repeat? Because your internet went out.
I've only collaborated with a film studio that on a continuous basis. Have you ever heard of Vision Films?
Mm-mm.
They're in LA. It's a bunch of like indie films. They,
Oh, cool.
they have like 2 or 3 movies that they do every month. I've been collaborating with them and this mental health podcast who I've become friends with, Who and How Club. I just need to find more and more people to collaborate with. But,
Yeah,
um,
that's what I did. You are breaking up quite a bit though. I just an FYI. Um, I actually interviewed. It's called the. Oh my god! I can't believe I can't be on the poetry something. Very organized. I mean, really. Oh, the poet's life. And I interviewed him, and he interviewed me because I'm a poet. So is he. So he fits into my uh, podcast and I fit into his. But I don't only interview poets. I interview writers. I'm going to have an attorney that's an entertainment attorney who's going to talk about representing bands and representing book writers. He's my attorney. And he's the one that helps me with my books. So that way you're well-rounded. You know what you're getting into because there is a lot of legal issues with things. I always use license-free music. And if I'm going to use it as my theme, I buy it. But you know, the theme to my podcast cost me $7. The theme music to Chica and the Man cost me like $25, but it's endless license free music. I could use it any way I want. But I figure might as well pay the author, you know, the songwriter, if I'm going to use it weekly. Otherwise, I just use license free music that I have permission to put on my meditations or my episodes.
all right. What are some? I've been in the play that I had told you about that I was moving up here
Oh,
to.
yes. How did that go?
It went good. It's I've been having some problems with it because I like the play, but it's kind of weird because I don't feel like anyone that's in the play is as serious about it as I'm trying to be. And everything is pre-recorded. And so
Everything is what?
pre-recorded all the lines. It's on this CD or tape or whatever. And
Mhm.
so I'm just mouthing words, and it just, it's weird. I like what the message is about, but I, I want something more acting, something I can do more with and actually learn more about acting.
Well, you know what? You're in a small town where if no one's holding theater events, go to your church, go to your school, have create. If you can't be part of it, create it. And you're in a small town where you have the opportunities are easier than if you're in a big city. Because if I want to hold a play or be part of a play, I have to rent a studio. There's so many, you have to put money into it here because people, you can't expect people to just give you money
Right.
or give you a space because that's their income. You're telling them, don't make money off of your income. But in your community that's smaller, you could probably get like-minded people to want to work with you and organize it and have fun. And acting should be fun. When we take it too seriously, which I have done, I'm guilty of that, we don't have fun with it anymore.
Right.
And then it shows when you act.
Yeah, I get that.
So get involved, create, go to, you go to church, right? I mean,
yes,
yeah.
I go to
Get
church.
working with that community, even if you're doing skits. When I went to a Catholic high school and we used to put on skits all the time in church. If we had an event, like it was Good Friday, some kind of celebration, we would just create skits and we did a lot of improv and we just made it fun with, we had if it was Good Friday, we had to talk about Good Friday. If it was, Easter was coming, we had to talk about that, or Christmas, but we put on skits and maybe, talk to your minister or priest or, the leader of the church and ask them, can we put on some skits? Like, what are you going to talk about this week? Are you going to talk about John, one of the apostles? Are you going to, because most ministers or most religious people, they will take an excerpt from the Bible and that is their, what they're going to talk about that week.
Right.
So, work with them because I think in a smaller community, you have better chances of really getting more done.
Okay. I guess it's kind of funny because I didn't think of it that way. Because whenever I was on the phone with my editor, he kept having different ways, and I kept getting overwhelmed because nothing that he was advising me to do, I had the ability to do. So it's nice to have someone from the outside who kind of help you see it in a way that you didn't think of before.
Yeah, there's so many, what in LA, you can't do this, but in a small town, you could probably do this. Just go and Xerox, make a flyer and, cut it into 4 and have a Xerox and just give out to people and, come to church on Sunday or whatever and see us do a few skits. Or there are so many ways to do it for free. Here, LA, what people don't know, LA is super spread out. You have to drive everywhere. But and there's a lot of sad stories with people that come here thinking that they're going to become rich and famous, and it's hard because everything's expensive.
Yeah, I mean,
So
LA.
and you have to come with a lot of skill.
Yeah.
A lot of skill, because I have had people that I've met and they actually have a lot of skill in the city they're from or the town they're from. They were like the lead in everything. But when you come here, you're up against celebrities that want to work as well. So guess what? They have more of a following than you. So it's create. Another thing I would do is YouTube.
So like
Do a couple of little skits on TikTok. there's the opportunities to do free things are so incredible now.
All right. So, okay. Yeah. YouTube, TikTok. And I think I haven't been having the time to do those master classes, but I want to do some more of those classes because I imagine now as big as podcasts have gotten, it seems like they got to have a podcast course. Mm.
Oh, there are. If you go to YouTube, there's some of the podcast platforms companies like Podbean has stuff, and podcast. You get on the I learned from YouTube what I should and shouldn't do. And then of course everything is you need the experience so that you have more detail on what it is. But I saw a lot of advice, incredible advice on YouTube.
What with all the your acting experience, what has been your favorite role that you've done, or favorite thing to audition that you felt like you should have gotten?
Oh, well, there's so many auditions that
Oh.
I think I should get all of them.
Fair
Okay.
enough.
But I think the ones that I did NYPD Blue, that show, I have never worked for such a professional show. You literally got there, you did your role. It was on the studio lot, so they didn't feed you. There's always craft services, which for those that don't know, craft services is where, they have peanuts and chips and donuts or whatever, something that if you're hungry, and they have fruit also, anything that if you're hungry, you could eat something quick that is not going to interfere with your lunch. And then we had a lunch break. And when you're on the studio, they don't feed you. So you got to go out and buy your lunch, right? I'm so used to being on location. Almost everything I've ever done has been on location. So if you're on location, they have to feed you because you can't leave.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and they feed you good stuff, like salmon and steak and whatever. And usually they have a food truck, and it's like a gourmet food truck. And they just, every day they do a different kind of thing, and they do cater to vegetarian people, and they do, so the meals are great. But when you work on a lot, I did this too. I worked on the lot for General Hospital. It's the same thing. They don't feed you. It's like, nope, you're on the lot. You go to the commissary and you have a meal. So I went, okay. So I did that with them. But basically it was like when I came back from lunch, because we did all the scenes earlier, but they don't release you until they check everything. So they said, okay, we're breaking for lunch. And I already had done all my scenes. And so I went and I broke for lunch. And then I came back and they go, oh, you know what? We got it. We don't have to reshoot any scenes. I'm like, damn, I would have gone out to eat in a less expensive area. Because I spent like 20 something dollars on lunch where I could have gone home to eat, So, but it was nice sitting at the commissary, because at the 20th Century Fox, they have a commissary where everybody eats, and then they have the actual restaurant. But the restaurant is always full, and you usually have to have a reservation. So I just went to the regular one. But I bought I love salmon. So I bought that. So I bought like the most expensive thing they had there. And then I came back. It's like, no, we don't need it. We are all good. Because they always double check. They don't want to release you until they know they have everything, which is smart. If not, I have to come back tomorrow. They have to, that's a new day. They have to pay me.
Okay, so you would get paid like by the day, not by how many hours or anything?
No, normally in SAG, you have to be booked out for the day. If they have you use you for 5 minutes, they still have to pay you for the whole day. I
Okay.
mean, I did a General Hospital. My call time was 7 a.m. and I spent more time in hair and makeup, like a half hour to 45 minutes. And then I did my scene and I was out by like 8:10. I'm like, wow, I have the whole day still. And I made money. And then I've also had the opposite where do you remember the show Seventh Heaven?
I love that show growing up.
Yeah, that one, I did an episode of it. My call time was 8 a.m. I sat there for over 12 hours. And at 8:30 p.m., I was done. They started, and around 8 o'clock I only had one line. That's all I had. I had one line, but it was a season finale and they had a lot of celebrities there. So they wanted to make sure that they got the celebrities in and out. And then I finally got to do my one line, and the guy that played the priest, I forget his name, he goes, "Oh, you think you got your one line down?" Yes. I had 12 hours to rehearse. I think so. And then, the thing is, they never used it.
Oh, that's
And never used it. But they had to pay me because it goes from your 8 hours plus a half hour, because you're supposed to have a half hour for lunch. So at 8.5 hours, it was time and a half. At 10 hours, it was double time.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up making a lot of money in one day.
That's kind of awesome how it worked out that way.
Yeah, if you're there, I forget when it turns into triple time. It actually goes to triple time because sometimes they only have the location for that day. And they have to make sure they shoot everything that day. All the outdoor shots are done first. And then unless it's a nighttime and they're waiting for nighttime to come. But yeah, everything is then if it's indoors, when it's done, it's done. It's like the movie I'm doing on May 2nd is in an art gallery. If we're going to have to be there forever, whatever happens, because the only day they have is Monday because art galleries are closed on Mondays.
Oh, wow.
So it's the only day they can shoot at the art gallery. I'm not sure if it's a film short or a film. I mean, I think it's a film short. But I forgot that I did another film short and I looked at my IMDb today. I'm like, what is that? I don't remember doing that. And I looked like, oh yeah, I did. I did do that. I forgot.
That's funny that you said that because I had a actor on, Dean Simone, and to promote his movie Game Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized him from a YouTube video, and I loved that YouTube channel. And so, second I had him on, before we started recording, I asked him questions about the YouTube channel. He had no idea what I was talking about, and then I had to remind him from his IMDb page. Like, oh yeah, those are good people.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because you do. If someone says, "Oh, you worked with so and so," I'm like, in your head, you're like racing to find out who are they talking about? Who are they talking about? What movie was this? Because sometimes you don't know. Now, memorable people that I worked with was George Clooney was one of them. He is incredibly a nice guy. I can totally see why they call him one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. He really is. I worked with Harrison Ford. That was exciting for me because I've always wanted to meet him. I think I told you before that he introduced himself to me on the movie set. And he goes, "Hi, I'm Harrison Ford." And I go, "Well, duh." And then I went, "Oh my God, I can't believe I said that to Harrison Ford." And he started laughing. He thought it was funny because it's like, well, of course I know who you are.
Yeah, I think you did tell me that, but that's still funny.
Yeah.
I been listening to a lot of Dak Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert. Have you listened to
No,
that
I
at
am
all?
not familiar with it.
Well, he was talking about, I can't remember who it was, but this somebody was talking about how they had used George Clooney's name to make reservations at a restaurant so that way
Ooh.
they would get reservations.
Uh-huh.
And they ran into George Clooney and he knew about it, but he was fine with it.
I tell you, he's like the nicest guy. I have a friend of mine when she was married. Her name is Gina. And her husband, her first husband's last name was Davis. So she would make reservations for Gina Davis, and they thought it was this,
The
the
act.
famous actress,
That's
you know.
funny.
And I saw Gina Davis in person. That woman is tall. She's like 5'10", 5'11". And I remember seeing her and I went, she, I knew she was taller than me as I'm 5'4", but I had no idea she was 5'10" or 5'11". She's very statuesque. Yeah. And that's the thing is, I had a friend of mine that came out here from uh, New Mexico, Albuquerque. And I wanted to take her to places where she could see a celebrity, right? So I think I finally gave up. I go, well, let's go to this one Mexican restaurant. It's across the street from Paramount Pictures. So let's go there. Let's see if we see someone. And at the time, this was many years ago, 90210 was shooting there. I think it was that show that was at Paramount. And Shannon Doherty walked in. I didn't recognize her. She did. She goes, oh, I got to see a celebrity. There's Shannon Doherty. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
But
I
you
don't know who
usually
that
do.
is either.
Have you ever seen 90210? The
No.
reruns? Yeah, she was one of the leads.
Okay.
So she recognized her. I mean, unless you are super famous, I'm not gonna recognize you. I'm really bad at that. Like I didn't even know when I did the movie Harsh Times that I was going to be working with Christian Bale. I did the whole film and I knew his name was Christian. I just didn't know it was Christian Bale. And then he goes, you don't recognize Christian Bale? I'm like, I go, no, I didn't recognize him, but I knew he was Christian and we got along nice. People said that he was unkind, but no, I found him to be an incredibly kind person. He was great to me on the set and he was nice to everybody on the set.
That's I've heard a lot of the same things of people talk about Mel Gibson, like he's not nice or whatever. And I actually, lucky enough, I had Vernon Wells on my podcast. Do you know who that is? You ever seen the original Mad Max movies with Mel
Yes, I
Gibson?
have, but it's been a long time. Yeah.
Well, in the Road Warrior, Vernon Wells was the main bad guy.
Oh, okay. Was he the bald headed guy? They
Yeah,
shaved his head. Yeah, okay, I remember who
with
he is.
the flying
Yeah.
boomerang that cut people's heads off. So,
Yes, I remember that a character. Yes.
so I asked him what it was like working with Mel Gibson, and he said that people always ask him that, and that he enjoyed Mel Gibson. That Mel Gibson's not as bad as people say him out to be. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think it depends on, well, he did have a drinking problem, and you don't know what drinking is going to do to you. It makes some people lovable and it makes some people angry. So,
Yeah.
but I happen to like Mel Gibson, the man. I mean, look what he did with, uh, what is it called? With the one day in Jesus's life,
Passion of the Christ.
the
Passion.
Passion of Christ. I remember Jay Leno interviewing him and saying, how did you promote that? Hi, we're going to do a film on one day of Jesus Christ in a language that nobody will understand. He goes, how did you get that to pick it up? But he's excellent. He's done incredible films. And he wasn't something recently, but I can't think of what it was. I remember saying, oh, he's working on something. But he knows how to make incredible films.
And that's another thing is it's kind of funny, but like you hear all about these directors like J.J. Abrams, Michael Bay, all these famous guys. But it's interesting because like in my opinion, Mel Gibson, Clint Eastwood are way better directors than most of those directors.
Yeah, I mean, they just have they're very stylized. I think that, that Hollywood is a popularity club. There are films that I've seen at the Academy that
Didn't
I
deserve to
thought
be
should have
there.
won,
Oh,
hands down, should have won. And then you hear behind the scenes, well, it was hell to work with this person. You hear all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, so it's a popularity contest. Do people
I
enjoy working with you? Because if you alienate a whole bunch of people behind the scenes, they're not going to vote for you. So, because it's all voting. I mean, if I have to be in the academy, but the academy is not easy to get into. You have to be nominated to join the academy, or you have to have people say you could join. And like, I think you need a whole bunch of them too. It's not like you need one person. I think you need about 5 or something like that. I don't know what the number is, but it's very difficult to get into the academy. And then you could only vote on your specialty. So I could only vote for best acting, but everybody can vote for best picture.
okay.
So if you're a sound designer, you could only vote for sound and best picture.
I wonder for someone like Clint Eastwood or Mel Gibson, I guess they could vote for best sound, best producer, best director, best actor, since they've done a little
Well,
bit of
best
everything.
producer, I think that falls under best picture.
Okay, best picture.
Yeah. And I think it depends on what unions you're in. Because in order to be nominated for best director, you have to be in the Directors Guild. There was one guy, did you ever see the film The Black Stallion, I think it was called?
I don't think so.
The guy was not in the Directors Guild. The most beautiful film shot, and he couldn't be nominated. Well, once he made that film, they automatically threw him into the Directors Guild. Because Directors Guild is also, these unions are not inexpensive to get in. They are quite expensive. When I joined SAG, it was $900. Now it's $3,000. And that's because I paid AFTRA separately. AFTRA was another $900. So in reality, it was really $1,800 to have SAG and AFTRA. But now it's like around 3,000. It isn't, once you're in though, you're in. That's a good thing. Unless you're Will Smith.
That's what I was about to say. I'm curious though. Did you feel like Chris Rock deserved the slap?
No, not at all. I thought it was a joke. I go, oh, did they rehearsed this beforehand? I don't think it merited that kind of behavior. I can understand him being angry because she does have a disease that she shaved her head. But I don't think to go up and hit someone, I think hitting someone, period, is beyond, unless they're hitting you and you're trying to defend yourself. That's, it's just like, I don't believe in killing someone, but if they're trying to kill me, they're going to have to go down first. But I don't know. I could understand him being angry. I can understand him screaming out, leave my wife out of it. But his nerves must have been at the height just walking into that place. So anything was going to set him over. And let me tell you, when you're in an event like that, that's super important, or you're giving a major speech or anything, you're so nervous that you can't even control your body sometimes. So that's what I'm thinking, he must have been at the height, which is sad because he's really excellent actor. And he's always talking about, being a better person and all of this. So for him to do that was a shock. Because I listened to the Red Table. They talk about amazing stuff there. So I was really surprised. I was surprised. That's why I thought it was a joke.
But I mean, I understand that like it wasn't the right thing to do, but at the same time, I kind of could see it and I understand it, and I don't know if it was right to punish him for it. I mean,
Well, I think there needed to be something, because if you don't, the next person is going to think that they can do this too. And nobody has a right to raise a hand to anybody. I totally believe, unless you are defending yourself. And I don't mean defending yourself. If someone's being an asshole with you, excuse my wording, I don't know if I can say that on the podcast, but if you are being difficult with someone, then you cannot control what people say. You could only control how you behave. So if someone's going to be talking like that to me, I might say, time out, you passed it, don't go any further, because he can't leave. So, and I heard that they did ask Chris Rock, do you want us to have him leave? And he said no. So, but Chris Rock isn't hurting because of it. He has sold out his entire tour because of it, because everybody wants to know if he's going to say something about it. So far he hasn't really addressed it, is what I heard. I have not gone to any of the shows, but financially he certainly isn't hurting because of that, and he certainly isn't hurting because of popularity either. But it's amazing how, I think he should have been punished. I think 10 years is a long time. It was funny on Saturday Night Live. They go, is it really a punishment to make him not be there, sit there for 4 hours? He goes, I think his best punishment would have been to make him host it. So it's like, yeah, because it is a very, very long evening at the Oscars, and you sit there for hours and hours. And there's a lot of it. I mean, it's done live, but they cut in the beginning and they cut at the end. And so there's I think 10 years was extreme, but I don't think it's ever happened before, so they didn't know how to deal with it.
yeah.
I have never heard of someone hitting somebody on the Oscars ever. So that I guess they had to go extreme on that one, because you're the first one.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It sucks though, because he's such a great actor. He's
Yeah, he
probably
is.
one of my favorite, and his acting career is gonna go take a huge slope for a while, I feel like.
Yeah, well, now Netflix had a film contract with him and they pulled it.
It doesn't sound too good.
No, because they're probably afraid of backlash, or that they're investing all this money and people are going to boycott it. So they just pulled it. But yeah, I mean, he's an excellent, I mean, he won the Oscar. But did you see the Saturday Night Live thing on it? Oh my God, you got to see it. They also make fun of him being at the Oscars. And one guy's like, oh my God, there's the seat sitters, the seat fillers were there. And it's like, we're sitting behind him. And then you see him say, excuse me. And he goes up on stage, comes back, and everybody's like, you could see it on YouTube. It's a very funny episode. But it's a shame, because I've been following Will Smith since the Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he wasn't as mature. So he went through this whole maturity thing. And then one event like this just ruined everything. It's sad.
It is sad.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows that we're all human. So.
Yeah.
That's another thing, though. I've always wanted to talk to any celebrity, just a celebrity, about this. Like, I imagine it's gotta suck being a celebrity. Like there are a lot of pros to it, but at the same time, people treat you like a god, and I don't think anybody is meant to be treated to that certain extent. And then it's like anytime you mess up or do a slip up, it's everywhere, and that's gotta be humiliating, especially if you have families.
Well, one of the biggest complaints I've heard from celebrities, because you work on films with them and everything, is that people think they own them or they know them personally. It's like, well, why can't you give them a picture? Why can't you? They get all offended. It's like you don't own their time. They're just trying to have a meal. I saw Jason Alexander at a restaurant and everybody he was just trying to have a meal with his wife and everybody kept interrupting him while he was trying to eat. And so he goes, I would really, they asked, can we take a picture? And he goes, look, I just want to have a meal with my wife. That's it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to take pictures. And because you get tired of it. You can't even go out to have a meal. That's why so many actors become recluse, because you don't want to say no, but you also, don't want to say yes all the time either. And people like to touch them. And that's another thing. And because they think they know them, it's okay to touch them. And it becomes too much when people think that they can just grab you and hold you or touch you. You really need to ask before you do something like that.
There was another thing I thought was interesting. I was listening to a interview with Halle Berry,
Mm-hmm.
and she was talking about how people, anytime she goes anywhere, people always reminding her of how beautiful she is. And she
Mm-hmm.
said that she does not like that. She wishes people would tell her that she's smart or that she has something other than just her good looks. And I didn't know that or think about that, but she said that her good looks makes her insecure about herself. Like that's all she's got going for her. And that's all people think of her. I thought that was kind of sad.
Well, I think it's not a bad thing to have, but I understand. I mean, to be beautiful like that, you also get hit on a lot. And sometimes you get hit on from people you don't want to hit on you,
Right.
So, but I mean, what's her name? Charlize Theron or Theron, however you say her last name. That's why she did the movie Monster, because people were always giving her the model. I mean, she's stunning. They both are stunning women. Come on. So they wanted to be more respected as a good actress. And that's why she did the movie Monster, because she gained weight. She shaved her eyebrows. And it was like, you could not, I go, that's Charlize Theron? I'm like, oh my God. She was excellent in that film. Excellent in the film Monster. But yeah, and you go through different things, and it's like when people say, "Oh, I want to come and I'm within a year I want to have my own TV series." No, it'll be great if it happens, but you're not ready, because you might be ready for the acting part and you can do that, but you're not ready with everything else that comes with it.
Right.
And you have to really work with, a publicist. It's like when people say this to you, don't get defensive, don't get, or you need to get lessons on how to deal with difficult situations. How do you talk back? How do you do this? How do you do that? It's not just the acting. You need to learn the other part. And if you've been acting for a while and it's been slow, you're kind of getting used to it. So it's not a big deal when it happens, but to go into, there's been actors that, uh, I think it was Rhinestone Cowboy with Travolta. It's an old film. But the leading woman, the girl opposite of him, straight out of college, got the role. Never acted again after that. Even though she was an excellent actress, she was not ready for that career, because it's not just about the acting. You need to be a business person. You need to know how to talk to people. You need to like suck it up half the time, because people are going to say things to you that you would never think of saying to your friend or anything like that. And those are things that you need to be able to understand. You're also going to have people that constantly tell you, like, Holly Berry, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, or you're so talented. I could see the other part of it. Oh, you're so talented, but nobody compliments them on their looks.
Yeah.
You're going to get the opposite as well, and never a leading man. So I like to see leading men that are not your typical leading men. There was an old TV show, and I forget the name of it, but this is before being bald was hip. And he was a sex symbol. He's the one that got all the women. He was bald, but he just had such personality. And I liked that casting because they didn't make him the stereotypical leading man.
Trying to think who you talking
It was an
about.
old TV show. I forget the name of it. It took place in a magazine. It was a fashion magazine, and he was the photographer. I can't remember the name of the show. It's a really old show. And he was he was a photographer, and all the models wanted to date him because he was so much fun. But it was not a traditional, handsome, gorgeous guy that people would do this for. It was his personality that was charming and fun and all of that. And so I liked that.
Whenever you are auditioning or you're trying to look for work, what's something you look for in a script?
Well, there's different stages of acting. One of them is when you first start acting, you almost take anything that's given to you. You don't really are picky. When I did the film that went to Cannes Expired, they asked me, how do you see this character? It was the first time anyone asked me, how do I see this character? Because there's always, they tell you what the character is. And there's been so much bias about and this is because I'm ethnic, of what I should be thinking or how I should act. And that's their biases on me. And there's a whole big change on that now, because that was part of what really disenchanted me with the acting, was that, there was one role I went on, and I'm going off topic here, but there was one role I went on and I knew I wasn't going to get it. It was a woman who lost her husband. He just got shot. He didn't just get shot, but it was after. And they have her going hysterical, crazy, and everything. I'm like, and I asked them, does she come from an upper class family? Yes. Is she owed money? Yes. But the fact that she was of Latin descent made her go hysterical. When you are a person with money, no matter how upset you are taught to be reserved. You are taught to be on top of it. And this woman is now becoming the matriarch of the entire family. She would not be screaming, going crazy. She might cry. She might be holding back her tears, but never of someone of that stature are they just going to go crazy unless, they have an issue about something else. You're trying to keep it together for the family. They didn't see it that way. So I did it. I go, well, I'm not going to go in there hysterical. I'm going to go in there. I'm upset and might cry, but I'm not going to go throw myself and, I'm not a fish out of water. I am just not going to do that. It is such a stereotype that I knew going in, I wasn't going to get it. And I went, okay. I was fine with that. Sometimes you don't want to be seen in the wrong light. But going back to Expired, they said, how do you see this character? And I said, I saw her as like, she likes to give tickets, but she's kind of a sexy little thing. She likes to she's only giving tickets so she can meet men, so I gave her this and they loved it. They loved that idea of me doing that. Unfortunately, some of the shooting couldn't do some of the scenes because all my scenes were with the lead. And if she wasn't available, we didn't do the scenes, but I was a comic relief. and I didn't get to do all my scenes, which was really sad, but still got accepted to Sundance and Cannes.
What how do you memorize your lines? Like you got any
Re- repeat, repeat, and repeat some more. And I also, so for anyone that wants to be an actor out there, do not learn your lines with a character in mind. Because when you go into a casting office, it has been the same thing for me for the last couple decades. They'll come in and you'll do the line one way, the way you thought it the character should be, and they'll go, "That's good. Can you do it this way?" And then if you learn the character that you had in your head with the lines, you're not going to remember the lines now. So you just learn the lines just to know the lines, and you just repeat, repeat, and repeat. Because I do not have a photographic memory. I repeat, repeat, repeat until it just flows.
do you have a specific acting style that you like to do or take that you're comfortable with?
No, I was actually referred to a coach, and they do the method. To me, you either know the character, you could feel the character, is just a tool to get there. So if it works for you to use that, then use it. It does not work for me to use a certain type of acting to do it, because we are human beings. We know what it's like to cry. We know what it's like to hurt. We know what excitement is like. We just have to figure out how to bring that out.
Right.
And techniques to help you get to the point of it. I was acting for a while and I wanted to take a course, but they were a method teacher, and wanted me to start all over again. I go, I'm not doing that. I've been booking without you. Now I'm going to change how I act, how I get to the same place. At my stage, what I do when I get a role is I hire a coach to help me with that role. Because if it's hard for me, because I had a producer friend tell me, if you're playing a character that is not you personally, how you are, that's when you get a coach. But most of the stuff I get, I don't need a coach because it's not real difficult to do. If I have a bigger role and it has peaks and valleys in it, then I'll hire a coach after I learn it so they can help tweak my performance.
I was curious if you could take any movie and remake it and you would like to lead that said remade movie, what movie would you like to make or be in?
Oh, wow. There's so many. You watch a film and you go, wow, that film is so good. I mean, it could go anywhere. From animation to, um, like Avatar would have been one that's pretty cool. I would, Norma Ray. There's been some Spanish films that I've seen that the acting is incredible. Almost anything by Pedro Moldoval, but he's in Spain. He uses a lot of Spanish actors from Spain. But there's just so many. I could tell you easier who I would like to work with. I
Who'd you
would
like
love to work with Chris Nolan. His films are surreal, and I love how he does. I would like to work with, I've always wanted to work with Spielberg, and I actually booked a job with Spielberg. And it was with Tom Hanks, and it was called The Terminal. And then they wrote my character out. So after I was hired, since I didn't sign the contract yet, that's one thing. You don't get paid until you sign a contract. They wrote out my character. And when I did see the film, I'm like, who got my lines? Stanley Tucci. They gave him my lines. And I was supposed to be his assistant.
That sucks.
Oh, it's happened. I mean, there was another film that I was the lead, and it was an independent film. And they told me I had it. And a week later, I still don't have my contract. So I asked my agent, can you call them? Because they said they were sending over my contract right away. And then he calls and goes, oh, well, the producers decided to offer it to somebody else. But if they don't want it, Sonia can still have it. And I'm like, really? Obviously, the person took it, but I don't know if I would have taken it after that.
Yeah.
I thought that that was such a slap in the face, but that happens all the time. So, you know,
And
things like that happen.
that's another thing I was thinking about. It's like the whole acting thing is full of rejection. And I guess that's why you were saying like it's similar to a podcast, because since there's so many podcasts out there, there's going to be a lot of rejection because anybody who's done it longer than you and has more money than you is they're going to have the attention of the people you want faster than you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And
And there's the phase that I'm hopefully they're done with it, but they were offering acting jobs to people that were popular on YouTube. If you had a lot of following on Instagram, or they actually check that. If you have a lot of followers, then they'll give you an opportunity over someone that actually has the skill, which is, I'm not hip to that. The only people that I see that are actually really good that come from a different are hip hop artists or rappers. A lot of them have become excellent actors, and I think the trick to acting is you have to have lived. You need to know what it's like to be destitute. You need to know, and not like actually live it, but see it, have it affect you, because you have to emulate what those are. That's why I don't believe in a certain technique. If the technique gets you there, then by all means use it. It's incredible. But there's not one way or another. There's a lot of incredible method actors that came out. So if that helps you, then go for it. I don't take acting, honestly, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't take acting that seriously. I did at one point, and all it did was make me miserable. So now I just have fun with it. If you try to make acting your career, only 3%, I think, was the last time I saw it, of SAG actors. This is already after you're in SAG. 3% make a living off of acting. And I was talking to my agent, and he says, Sonia, even if you're booking top of show and you get 4 or 5 of those a year, and that's usually the max you're going to get because, shows rotate. He goes, you're still making less than 50,000 a year. So you could live off of that. I mean, LA is really expensive to live at. Your rent's a minimum of 2,000 a month. So your cost of living is higher here. So $50,000, you're not going to get a lot. You're going to get further than many people, but it's not it's not a career you could really count on, because you don't know the following year. I knew one actor that was booking top of show every show that was on the air until he did every single show that was on the air and had dry spells. He already did the shows. And once you do the show, unless they bring you back as a recurring, you're done. So he went through like a year and a half of not booking anything because he already had booked all the top shows.
How do you not let it bring you down?
At first, you take it very personally, but it has nothing to do with you personally. I got a job once because the director couldn't decide and his little kid picked me. So You never know. You might go into and they really want you. And then they pin you up against who the other lead is. And then they say, well, I don't think they look good together. So let's go for the next person. You could be the most talented and not get it. There's so many factors that come into it. Too tall, too short, too talented. I was told by a casting director because I didn't get a role because I was more talented than the lead. So you don't know. You don't know why you're not going to, it's a business. And so they're trying to see who could make the better sale.
That would
And that's
make me
why
so mad. You know, you're
it
in
does, but you
this.
have no control. So how can you get upset about something you have absolutely no control over? That's why you have to have a second job. It's like my other career, which is a poet. Many famous poets teach at a university or they do something else, or writers, because unless you are Stephen King or someone of that caliber, you have to have a side gig. That's the sad thing about all the creative arts. Creative arts help so many people out of depression, out of feeling alone. It's like mental therapy for most people. So way to forget about their lives. If they're having a very difficult life, they'll turn on a comedy. But at the same time, it you can't really make a living on it. You have to, and then even Michelle Pfeiffer said this. She goes, I'm going to work for as long as I could get work. She says, it's not guaranteed. I mean, it's disheartening if you want to be an actor, but if you really have the passion for acting, you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do theater. You're going to do something to do what it is you want. If I'm not acting, I'm doing my podcast, I'm writing my poetry, I'm decorating my house because I love decorating. But there's different outlets. And the sad thing is, what you are passionate about is what you would like to make money from. But in acting, you could create it if you don't get on. And like I said, some people have great success working. But you can't count on it forever. That's one of those things, That's why you see so many famous actors. They get older, they start directing and they start producing, and because they still want to be around it. And some of them just get tired of acting, but they like the industry. So they move on to different things. I know it's the hardest thing to hear, that you can't make money off of it.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. It's just like I've been having a lot of insecurities about the podcast because it's just I've been having a lot of things thrown at my way recently, and to keep doing this is sometimes a little mentally exhausting because there's other stuff like I love doing this and it helps me, but at the same time, as much as I love doing this, it feels discouraging to, like there not be anybody listening, or there only be like one or two people listening. And I should be happy. There's two people listening, but like it's so frustrating because like you're saying, you put all this time into it and you're not getting what you feel like you should be getting back.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the creative arts, that's what it is. And look at how many creative artists in, writing and art, they don't get famous until after they die. I mean, that's really discouraging, but uh, it's just the way people perceive entertainment. Look at the sports people. Do I really think they're worth $9 million a year? No, not at all. So, but that's where people put money, and they'll put money into a film because it is very expensive to have a film,
Yeah.
especially if you have celebrities. It's very expensive. You want top-notch people behind the scenes, good sound people, good, cinematographer. You need good people because you cannot do it on your own. So it's very expensive.
Right.
And they might not do films all the time. I knew a director, he was getting any film that he wanted done. And then dry spell. Nothing was getting done. You have to be very flexible with your passions. Like if you only like to do Westerns, you're going to be limited for a time being. There's only so many Westerns you're going to do. If you only do sci-fi, there's only so many you're going to do. Even though sci-fi, I think, has a stronger hold than Westerns do. But, everybody does, from the directors, producers down. It's an extremely difficult career because it is very costly to put on a production. And you need an advertising budget. Like I was so excited when I hit 1,000 downloads. And I asked my podcast co-host on Chica, his name is Alex, and he's a PR guy. So I said, I know that he gets hundreds of, downloads a month and not thousands, right? And I said, I know this is not big for you, but I'm at 1,000 downloads. And he goes, that's really good because you have no advertising budget. And that's normally how you promote a podcast. You have to have an advertising budget. If not, you have to be very diligent, because think of it this way. How are people going to listen if they don't know you don't exist?
Right.
I am guilty of not doing that myself, because I have an acting website on YouTube and a channel that I've never uploaded, and I've got a lot of stuff I could put on there. I can't use other people's productions because YouTube will take it right down. But I have scripts that I've written. I could do little bits of here and there. I haven't done that because, one, I've been working on my books, and I'm finally done with my compilation. Because what people don't understand, even if you self-publish a book, you have to go through the same steps. You're the typesetter. You're going to set the book. You need to advertise. You need to hire an editor. You need to get, cover, someone to create your cover. It's a lot of work. Honestly, when it comes to my books, I really want another publisher. I don't want to work so hard anymore. It's a lot of work. And I'd rather just do my podcast and write, and do my acting. And I think that my idea of acting is a lot better now, because I actually gave it up for a minute. It broke my heart, but I got tired of being told I have a job, and then I don't. And I got tired of auditioning, and I got tired of trying to let people know that's not what we think. That's not how we act. But now things are changing, and I'm just flexible. If I get a job, I get a job. It's not my only way of income. It's not my only way of releasing creativity. So, but I have a passion for it. And that's why I'm going to do my YouTube channel and my acting one, because I got a whole bunch of stuff that I can do that's mine. So I don't need to use anybody's monologues or writings or anything like that.
When are you going to start the acting podcast?
Well, I have a script that I wrote. I couldn't decide if it was going to be a script, if it was going to be a book. It ended up at the last rendition of it was a one-woman show. So I'm basically going to use that to create that. First, I have to finish my book. Excuse me. That's first things first. I would be done by that within a month. In terms of the book is ready. I'm doing pre-sales. I have to do, and one advertising has to be set in place. Once all that is set in place, then I can let it go and let the advertising, because I'm going to spend, I booked a job. I'm going to tell you what the print job is. I just can't tell you the content. I did a print job for Walmart. and it paid very, very well. And so that people that know about print jobs are advertising. It goes in magazines, it goes, in the stores and stuff like that. You get paid one time, and your agents take 20% of your check. Yeah. So for me to see that check where I had it, I'm like, oh my God. And I saw that my agents took $1,300.
Right.
But you know what? I look at it this way. I wouldn't have had the net if it wasn't for them.
Right.
That's how you have to look at it, because normal agents take 10%. So film and TV commercials, 10%. A literary agent takes 15. A print agent takes 20. Because and it seems like print, because you only get paid once, there's no royalties, there's no residuals, there's no other way for them to get any more cash from that job. I don't make any more cash from that job either. It's basically, oh, we want to shoot this. We're paying you now for 2 years, which is what they're doing. But it's a seasonal print job. So that means that they might consider it for next year to use it as the print job for next year as well, because they did sign me on for 2 years. And it was fun. It was the nicest people. It's like I could do, and it was, they hire people out, but very great, wonderful people to work with.
Good.
Any more questions?
I think that's all the questions. I've just was very excited to get to talk to you again, and
Yeah, same here.
you have a really good way of words, and you're really good at showing other ways to look at things. And so I'm excited that I was actually able to have time to do this today. And I'm going to try to look at things differently, because, like, everything you were talking about with your acting, I've been kind of feeling that with my podcast. And it's just nice to have another way to look at it.
Yeah, and when you're a creative person, which you definitely are, it's detrimental to our mental health not to do it. So we have to do it. It's in our blood. I have to be. When I wasn't doing acting, I used to be a singer. When I wasn't doing that, I got into interior decorating. There's something within you that you need to fulfill that creativity. So create your own. I bet you once I get this YouTube channel going up and I do all my little skits, it's probably going to be hysterical because it's all comedy. So far, this one that I'm doing is comedy. And it's all about weight loss. It's like, because I have battled weight my whole life. I always had to eat healthy, which is fine, because now that I'm older, it actually really benefited me to eat healthy.
Right.
And so, changing your idea because I used to be on every single diet that ever came out. And then it goes to acceptance. You need to accept. I'm trying to not say the word have to, because then it feels like a chore versus a need. And so I wanted to show people that it's all our perception, it's all our beliefs. I look at pictures of me when I thought I was fat and I was like thin, and it's like, but it was all in my head. I just felt so insecure that even though when I was thinner, I still saw myself as an overweight person. And in reality, I'm not a big person.
Right.
I'm not. but in my head, I was, because I compared myself to models. Come on, I'm not even built that way. I'm 5'4" and muscular built. There's no way I was going to be a model. unless I grew 5 inches and changed and removed some of my muscles. It just wasn't going to happen. But we see magazines, and it's so nice that now when you look at magazines, you see everybody. You see people that are and I don't even want to say they're full figured, because overweight is another concept. If you're unhealthy because of your weight, then maybe that's something you need to work on. But if you're healthy, it's just a concept of what people think. And so that's what it is. This is a comedy thing, making total fun of myself, making fun of every diet I went on. And, and it goes through the decades. So I'm going to be like, pretend I'm like 4 years old, and talk like this because that's how kids talk.
Can you do a lot of different voices like that?
I could do some. I call that one, because I was working on a voiceover. I call it the exasperated child. My niece, I used to be able to do a child voice, but she would always go like, and then I went to the store and it's all of you. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited.
You should have been a voice actress on the Fairy Odd Parents. I loved that show as a kid.
Which kid? Which show?
The Fairy Odd Parents.
Oh, I never saw it.
It's got this actor I follow a lot. He it's the main actor in it. Let's see. Yeah, he did a lot of voice acting.
Yeah, because I'm going to take a voice acting class, voiceover. And I've taken many already. And that's why I had the equipment for my podcast, because I bought it for voiceover. But I'm going to take one because I want her to help tweak me.
Mhm.
And she only takes 10 people. Hopefully it's not full already, because I was waiting for my acting check.
Let's see here. Okay. I have a hard time finding. It's like anytime you think of somebody and then you're looking for it, you can't
Yeah,
find it.
that's okay. You can send it to me via email. I'll check it out.
All right. But we were talking about different creative things. I was curious. I had this idea from talking to you. Would you ever be interested maybe doing a acting or voiceover like skit over like a podcast? Like I know some people have like different stories that they do over a podcast. And would you ever be
The
interested?
serial, they're the serial. My only thing I need to watch out for is because I am in the union, and I know print doesn't fall under, but if I'm doing acting, I don't know how it covers voiceover on media. That would be the only thing. I might be going against something that's union related.
All right.
Yeah. But there's a lot of, there's some that are so amazing. They only have one podcast. They do it for 3 months, and they have the sound effects, and they have the various actors, like old fashioned radio when they used to do it live. But tell me what you have in mind, and I could see union wise if it's something that I can technically do, because they frown on us doing a lot of free work, because you could imagine that nobody would want to pay for us.
Right. Murder mystery, because it's something that a lot of people do. It's something I watch a lot, and I could probably write up something like that really quick and not have to invest much time into it. I have to come up with something basic really quick.
You know how you can also do it if you want to use SAG actors, and it doesn't hurt us in the union, because that's our number one rule, is you don't do free work, is just sign up and you could get waivers. You don't have to pay.
So sign up as a SAG, or what do you mean?
Yeah, you go to SAG, and I think there's a section that goes producers. You go to the website, and it's producers, and then it gives you all these different contracts. And if you have a SAG waiver, then you could do that. And since it's via Zoom or however you're going to do it, I don't think it's, are you doing audio only, but you're going to be doing it through Zoom or whatever?
Yeah, I can do that.
No, I'm
Just
asking you because I don't know.
yeah, just do it through podcast, just audio, no video or anything.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Send me what you're thinking, because I could check it out too. But if you ever want to, and look in the audio part, there's a part for
Okay.
producers, and see what they say. It might fall under more on the AFTRA part of it
Because I'm
because it
just
is radio.
because I'm just trying to think of things I can do right now. And yeah.
Yeah, because I don't mind helping you as long as I'm not doing anything that is would hurt my union status.
Okay. And so if I went to SAG and got a waiver, would I have to pay for that? Or
I don't think so.
okay.
And I think they do stuff for people. There's SAG waivers for students. Are you a student still?
Uh no, I was wanting to do the master classes. I guess if I did the master classes, would that technically be a student or no?
No, I think it's you have to be at a university or a college or something like that. And I don't know about you, but we have junior colleges here that have film departments. And they through the school is where you get the waiver. Yeah, because they usually have, and but I don't know. Let me find out, because it is acting that you're doing, and you are writing a script. I don't know. I can call them on Monday and find out how that works.
And then I do have a screenplay. I think I told you about this before that I have completely written. Um, it's been a while, so I probably have to. If I ever did something with it, I need to rewrite it, perfect it. But it's a story I've always wanted to kind of mess around with, and maybe it might be a good idea to do something like that since it's already written for an audio. And if it's really successful, then that might help me sometime make it into the movie in the future.
No, that would be very, yeah. The only thing is, like, when you deal with people that are in the union, they have to check out what the union rules are. Because I've
Okay.
never done like a radio acting thing, but again, it's acting. So
All right.
uh what I would do, what else can you do? Get a waiver. Oh, I was going to tell you that once you think you perfected your screenplay and you want to take it to the next level, because once you have a good screenplay, you can enter contests with it. And what I would do is, I mean, I could refer you to someone that does reads. You have to pay them, but there was one friend of mine. She got a writer, and the guy was writing it. They kept having events where, and everybody gave him too many different opinions. And I said, you're getting too many opinions from people that are not in the industry. So give it to, and her name is Sheree. Now she's really busy, so I don't know, but they gave it to her. That script has won many awards since she looked at it and told him how to tweak it.
Okay.
And it's won award after award. And
All
that's how
right.
you could get films made. If you have an award-winning script, someone's going to want to, what do you call it? It's like licensing it for 5 years, where they have to pay you to get the rights to use it, to promote it. Producer does that.
Okay.
But when you have something like that, that's another thing you could go through.
All right. I've been having some difficulty with my job, and I've been looking at trying to get another job, but since I should be having some more free time, could definitely use that free time to back and try to strengthen it up a bit. So it's been,
Yeah. Because she had in her class, she had award winning playwrights. And she still knew how to tweak that. I'm like, how am I ever going to even be half as good as these guys? Oh man, I walked into that class. It's like there was an Oscar winner, and they're like, and then there was me. So she's had amazing people. She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant, and I want her to look at my stuff when it's ready too.
All right.
She's worth paying for.
Actually, how would you feel if whenever I am confident myself with the screenplay, I send it to you, and whenever you have time to read it, and you could give me some criticism, and when you think
I
it's
could give you
good,
notes. I could give you
yeah,
some notes.
that
Yeah, sure. That's not a
that way
problem at
it's
all.
not that way it's not completely bad because whenever she sees it, so
Yeah.
she
You know
knows
what I found? Because I tried to write a script and I was not good at it because
because
all
there's a
the
lot,
voices sounded like the same.
right?
And that, if you're going to review it and rewrite it, make sure the voices sound different. The
So,
wording is different.
okay. So like write each character with like a different narrative almost.
Write each character. Okay. Look at it this way. You talk a certain way and I talk a certain way, right? And
Okay.
in audio, we could totally tell.
Right.
But when you write it down,
You
how are
can't
people going to
tell.
perceive that? Right.
Right.
And you
Okay.
have to be able to perceive that when you read it.
Right.
So that I found, and I was not good at it. I'm not good at dialogue. And that's the biggest thing in a script is the dialogue. So I'm actually working on a sci-fi right now. And I'm working it to make it a short story, maybe a regular novella size. But as the short story, I'm going to see if I could sell it as a treatment. Because I talked to a friend of mine at Warner Brothers and I told her, do you need a treatment? I was just asking her. I didn't have anything to give her, but I was asking her. And she says, well, now treatments are more like short stories. We want to see a whole story. And I'm like, okay. So, but it's not anything I would want to produce. It's not anything I would even want to write the script about.
I know there's so many people in LA, so it might not be likely that you've met this person, but have you met or know Masilo Grian? I think is how you say his name.
No.
So he moved to LA and there's this movie, The Prototype, which I did a promo for with a collaboration with Vision Films.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sci-fi movie. And from 1998 to I can't remember when, but for several years, I think almost 20 years, he was working as a waiter at like 2 or 3 different restaurants in LA, saving up money, all that money, just so he could produce this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you said sci-fi, my brain just immediately went to him because he loves sci-fi, and I imagine that he has to have a big passion for sci-fi since he spent 20 years of his life trying to get a
Mm-hmm.
movie made.
And sci-fi is very expensive to produce because there's so many special effects.
And this was a very low budget sci-fi movie. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was far from a perfect movie, but something I've realized is when you're watching a low budget movie, you can't critique it the same way you would as something that Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And so, when you think of it that way, you think about all the limitations. He did pretty good job, and I bet if he had bigger budget, he might do something really amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing, is finding the budget for it.
Right.
And I this year I found out the difference between sci-fi and fantasy. Even though they're always grouped together,
Yeah.
sci-fi is probable, fantasy is made up. That's the difference.
So probable. So
That
I'm
means that, okay, for instance, Jules Verne wrote sci-fi. He's like the father of sci-fi. But he created submarines and airplanes, and now we have that. So it was probable.
so would that mean that the Jetsons were probable? Because hasn't a lot of stuff that they wrote in the Jetsons actually came out to be true?
Yeah. Because and that's the thing about, you see sci-fi, people are going to different planets and they're doing all, yeah, we will eventually get there. Not in my lifetime. I don't think in any of our lifetimes. We don't know how to cross the dimensions. We don't know how to go through black holes. We don't know how to do any of that yet. But I think we will. I think it's
That
fascinating, the theory behind black holes.
that'd be so crazy because I love Star Wars, and one thing I like about Star Wars is like a planet is a country in a way. And
Hmm.
so that'd be so crazy if like to I don't know how long this Earth or time's going to exist before it all vanishes, but like that'd be crazy if there's a time where like there are so many planets discovered. It's like each planet's like its own country almost.
Well, one of the things that NASA has seen is that when they sent out those telescopes to take pictures, they were super excited about finding the first Earth-like planet. It's in our universe. It's in the Milky Way. It's in the Milky Way galaxy. The universe is everything. And then it kept going further. And now it's found thousands of Earth-like planets. But
In
we
different
are in,
galaxy or
yeah, where they have water, they have plants, they have all, I mean, they don't know what is living there. All they've done is discovered that they are Earth-like planets. They have oxygen and hydrogen and whatever you need to, there's three things you need to make it like Earth-like. But they've discovered that, and there are within our own universe. The only thing is that our solar system is off, like somewhere far from the cluster of most of the planets. We're like far away, where other ones, their solar systems, because they go around, every star we see in the sky is a sun. So it every sun out there has planets around it. And some
huh.
planets, and some of them have double suns, and other ones have many moons. But in this solar system, we have, what, 9, maybe 10, because they haven't confirmed the 10th planet. They have seen a shadow of a massive planet beyond Pluto, and they call it Planet X, but they can't be sure. It's like 3 times the size of Earth, because they're only seeing like a shadow, and they thought there was nothing out there, but now they're starting to see that. So who knows, within our own solar system, we're far away from the cluster of most of the planets. But there's these other ones that they're around the sun, and there's like solar systems that are much closer than we are. And if the black hole theory is correct, where time folds upon itself, and instead of going linear, you just cut through, from Earth to wherever, then I mean, there's so much out there that we just don't know. How exciting is that? And we thought uh, space was empty, and then now, there's black matter that everybody talks about. But if you look at our own air and you put it in a jar and you look at it under a microscope, there's a ton of stuff in our air that we don't see.
Right.
So it's nothing's empty. Everything is full. So that's one of the things that's why science fiction is so interesting, because there's so many probable things that could happen, especially when science keeps moving forward. It's only sci-fi until it becomes the truth.
So if you were to like write a sci-fi story of you talking to your past self, like a
You broke up,
butterfly,
so I didn't hear any of
oh,
that.
a movie like The Butterfly Effect, would that be considered fantasy or sci-fi?
Oh, I would think sci-fi.
Okay.
Because isn't
Because
that based on anything that's kind of based on science would be sci-fi. That has a basis on science. Mine has a basis on science in terms of, um, the, black hole theories and all of that. So there's a base on science. I'm just taking it off into La La Land after that.
so with Star Wars, I guess that I mean there are a few times that they kind of sci-fi it up, but I guess that's basically more fantasy than a sci-fi. Or
I would think sci-fi.
okay,
Yeah. Fantasy would be The Hobbit.
okay, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah. That's because it's totally made up. The idea he has about inner earth is fascinating because there are some beliefs that the earth is hollow. And those are, we don't know. We haven't gotten to that point yet. We don't have the intelligence to know that yet. But I always feel that if you could think it, it can be. So, and yeah, so I totally, I love sci-fi because of that.
The I don't know why, but I've always had this strange belief, and I have no reason to back it up. But like, I feel like there's got to be. What if there's some kind of landmass between Antarctica and Canada that we don't know about, like we haven't discovered yet?
I could totally believe it. I could totally believe it because if you put all the countries together, they do fit like a puzzle. And then I forget what you call it when it's separated and the oceans underneath, you could see that.
I forgot what that's called too. But
Yeah, I can't think of it, but
because
yeah, I totally believe it because there's land at the bottom of the ocean. Who's to say it can't come up?
right, and
Yeah.
there's still so much of Antarctica that hasn't been discovered.
Oh, Antarctica.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the North Pole, but Antarctica, there is land there.
No,
In
no,
fact, yeah, Antarctica, there's land under there. It's a continent.
no.
Antarctica is a
I know.
continent.
I,
Uh-huh.
I I I was talking about, but because if the world is round, then what would come after Antarctica would be Canada, right? If the Earth is round.
Oh, if we shift it, well, first of all, we'd all be dead. Uh, because the planet does shift. Um, they could go back thousands of years and say, oh, at this point, the equator was at this point. It shifts very slightly.
Okay.
But if it ever did a big shift, we would all most likely drown.
Well, okay. So besides the continent of Antarctica, you don't think there could be like anything between and after Antarctica but before Canada?
Well, then you're going around the
Because
world.
this
But
isn't Canada. Yeah.
what's interesting is that in, I think, the 1600s, I think it was, there was a map made that has the landmass of Antarctica without the ice.
Huh. Right.
You got to look that up. That's fascinating. It's an actual map that existed. And now what they're finding is that map is accurate because now we have the technology to kind of see. And they've been able, because I mean, the ice that's there is miles deep. It's really deep.
Wow.
But they've been finding that what's on that map is actually being discovered.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's another thing that's really fascinating is that most countries have a flag in Antarctica, but they have no fly zones over certain parts. And all the countries are in agreement. No fly zone over this section. It's fascinating why they don't allow that. Yeah,
No
so
fly zone over where their flag is, or just in
no,
that
no,
area?
no. They are on agreement. There's a section of Antarctica you do not fly over.
Huh. Okay.
There's a bunch of different theories on that, but and there is that. And it is a landmass. I would like to go check it out. I just
would
don't like the
too.
cold weather.
Right. And it's funny, but it's like so expensive. I think is the cheapest way to get there is to actually work for it.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise,
I don't want to be set because you go there and you're going to be there a couple months. I don't want that kind of isolation. I
right.
mean, and you're eating, freeze dried food because in that kind of cold, you can't even put your food outside. It would get too cold.
So it's funny that you said that because I was just talking to a coworker about this. Like one of my fears would be like, what if I had to go pee and someone's in the bathroom? Like that would be like a nightmare if something
I
bad
wonder if they,
happened.
I wonder if they do it like they do in, like space. I know I go on a cruise there.
I think
And now cruises are so cheap to go because nobody wants to go on a cruise because of COVID,
right.
because there was one, I wanted to go down to Mexico and then I was going to buy, because it was like $300 and I could be gone for 4 days on a cruise. They feed you to, that's one thing. There's a lot of food on cruises. They feed you extremely well. But when I was about to book it, there was someone that got on the news. We can't get off the ship. There's COVID on the ship and we have to stay on the ship and we're on lockdown. I'm like, okay, I'm not buying the ticket.
Too good to be
Yeah, because
true.
they have to keep you contained. So you can't
Yeah.
leave. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, like I want to go to Alaska on a cruise and I want to go to Antarctica on a cruise. But I think if you go in Antarctica on a cruise, you got to fly down to Argentina and then get on the cruise.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm going to have to cut this a little short because we're at 2 hours right now.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time, and it was so lovely to have you on and get to talk to you.
Well, it's so wonderful to see you again and be on your show. And I wish you much success with this.
Well, thank you so much. And